naming Diyos. Maraming salamat po sa punang taglay, sa liwanag ng kaisipan at sa pagkakataong maipagpatuloy ang pag-aaral ng mga kabataan. Gabayan mo po ang bawat isa sa amin. Anuman ang bahagi na aming gagampanan, naway maging maayos at matagumpay ang pagtuturo at pag-aaral na aming gagawin sa araw na ito. Patawarin mo po kami sa aming mga pagkukulang at pagkakasala at sa aming paggawa ito. Amen.
We are expected to describe how rocks undergo weathering. After watching this live stream, you are expected to describe how rocks undergo weathering. But before we proceed, first, prepare your learning materials. Next is to pay attention to the details. Lastly, your active participation during discussion by posting relevant answers and comments in the chat box. And now, let's begin. To start, let's play What's the Gist? All you have to do is to guess the gist and then type in your answer in the comment section. Jumbled letters will be provided to serve as your hint in guessing the gist. You have 3 seconds to provide the answer. So, let's begin. The first gist. Your answer is oxygen. That's good. And here's the next gist. Your answer is great. That's good. And for the third gist, change. Some got the correct answer. And another gist. Chemical. Very good. And for our last gist, I guess you can get this one. Rocks. Okay, very good. Good job, everyone. Thank you for your cooperation. All of the words that you identified a while ago are related to our topic for today. Before we proceed further, think about this. If the early Earth's crust was mainly composed of rocks, why do we have layers of soil on the surface now? And also the question, where did this soil came from? The Earth's surface have different landforms, such as mountains, plateaus, plains, valleys, which are currently changing due to the processes brought about inside the Earth and as well as on its surface. And one of such processes is called weathering. Weathering refers to the physical breakdown or chemical alteration of rocks at near Earth's surface. It is the breaking down and changing of rocks as a result of exposure to the environment. It is a static process, which means that the rocks break up where they stand, and the broken pieces remain at the same location, no movement or broken pieces involved. There are 2 types of weathering, and these are physical or mechanical weathering and chemical weathering. How these 2 differs from one another? Well, these 2 types almost always occur together in nature and reinforce each other. Alright, let's see if you have an idea of how rocks weather physically or chemically by answering our simple activity. Describe if the following pictures and descriptions are examples of physical weathering or chemical weathering. Comment light for physical weathering and heart for chemical weathering. I'll give you 3 seconds to answer each number. So for the first one, it is the repeated freezing and thawing of water creating larger cracks in rocks. Okay, if you comment like, okay, that's good. That's physical weathering. Next, the reaction of water, salt, and air on iron present in rocks. And that will be chemical weathering. Okay, heart react. And then moving on, acids from plant roots which dissolve minerals, causing rocks to break down. Okay, that's chemical weathering. How about this one? A large rock falling from a cliff and then followed by breaking. Okay, thumbs up. That is physical weathering. And last, limestone dissolved by carbonic acid. Heart react, okay? That is chemical weathering. Good job, class. So, let's move on with the 2 types of weathering. The first type of weathering is physical or mechanical weathering. It is the disintegration or breaking up of large rocks into smaller fragments without changing the rock's mineral composition. Think about pounding an antacid acid or antacid tablet using a hammer. What do you think will happen? Yes, that's correct. The tablet will be broken into smaller pieces, but without changing its composition. So, how rocks undergo physical weathering? Can you cite some reasons behind it? Actually, there are physical processes which occur in nature that break rocks into smaller pieces. This includes frost wedging, thermal stress weathering, salt crystal growth, abrasion, biological activities, and anthropogenic activities. Let's discuss the first one, which is frost wedging. Frost wedging occurs in regions where temperature fluctuates from above and below the freezing point, resulting to freeze-thaw cycle. When water enters through the cracks, in the empty cracks of or spaces on the rocks, it will expand and it freezes. Repeated freeze-thaw can weaken and breaking up the rocks into smaller fragments. Meanwhile, rocks react to temperature changes during the day or between seasons by expanding or contracting. Thermal stress weathering can occur in a desert climate that is hot during the day and cold at night. The heating and cooling processes that happen every day put stress on rocks into the outer layer that cause the outer layer of the rocks to start peeling off into thin sheets. So next will be salt crystal growth. When water evaporates, salt precipitate. It happens in rock fractures. The growth of salt crystals can put pressure on the cracks. This process can be observed in shores, where rocks are exposed to lots of salt water that spray on them, and in arid environments where water evaporates rapidly. Abrasion by water, wind, and gravity wears away the rocks when it rubs against one another. Abrasion makes rocks with sharp or jagged edges they will become smooth or either round. Plants and animals are also agents of mechanical weathering. For example, rabbits. and other burrowing animals. They can burrow into cracks into the different rocks that they're living in. So making it bigger and then eventually splitting the rocks. While the seeds from the trees may sprout in soil that has collected into a cracked rock. As the roots grow, they widen the cracks and then breaking into pieces. And over the time, trees can break apart even huge rocks. Even small plants such as mosses can enlarge tiny cracks as they grow. And last, we have anthropogenic activities. Human activities can lead to weathering of rocks. And it is through mining, road and dam construction, deforestation, and other major human impacts in the environment. Moving on to the next type of weathering, which is chemical weathering. Chemical weathering decomposes rocks through chemical change. For instance, an antacid that is soaked in water. What do you think will happen to the tablet? So, when an antacid tablet is soaked in water, a chemical reaction occurs. Bubbles will form and rise out of the water. It is a sign that chemical reaction is happening or taking place. In chemical weathering, rocks and minerals are reacting to acids, oxygen, carbon, and water. That's why there are no two rocks ever look exactly the same. It is also the reason why that we have those awesome looking caves and also those unique rocks formation all over the world. The processes involved in chemical weathering include dissolution, hydrolysis, oxidation, and biological activities. Rocks can be subjected to dissolution. It is the process by which mineral dissolves in water. Dissolution reactions produce ions, but no minerals, and it is reversible if the solvent is removed. A household activity example would be dissolving a teaspoon of salt or a mineral that can be called as halite in a glass of water. The halite will be separated into sodium and chlorine ions. If the water in the glass is allowed to evaporate, there won't be enough water molecules that can hold the sodium and the chlorine ions. As a result, the ions will again form into halite. Limestone and rocks that are high in salt that can be dissolved in exposed water. The water carries away the ions. Meanwhile, calcite, which is a major component of limestone, it will be dissolved in acidic water. Acidic water is common in nature because carbon dioxide reacts with water vapor in the atmosphere and with water on land and in the ocean to produce carbonic acid. And this process will be called carbonation. Carbonation is the reaction between calcite and weak acid in rainwater and also in our groundwater. So when carbon dioxide dissolves in water to form carbonic acid and reacts with carbonic rocks and forms calcium carbonate, which is soluble and is carried away in solution, then gradually weathering the limestone. Rocks that are weathered mainly by carbonation are marble and limestone. In the presence of acidic groundwater, limestone can be dissolved underground, and this can lead into a spectacular cave system. Stalactites are vertical formations that start from the ceiling towards the ground, while stalagmites just from the opposite, so from the ground to the ceiling. If the solution of limestone remove rocks to undermine support near the Earth's surface, it may collapse, creating a sinkhole. Next will be hydrolysis. The term hydrolysis combines the word hydro, which refers to water, and lysis, meaning to loosen or to dissolve, It commonly affects igneous rocks because they are composed of silicate materials such as quartz and feldspar, which readily combine with water. An example will be when water reacts with potassium feldspar to produce clay minerals and ions. The feldspar has been altered to the chalky-looking clay mineral, which is called kaolinite. Let's move on with oxidation. In a repeated cycle, when oxygen is dissolved in water, a reddish-brown rust will appear on the surface of iron-rich minerals, which easily weakens it. So oxidation happens when free oxygen is involved in a chemical reaction. For our last example will be biological activities. Some plants and animals release acid that forms chemicals that can cause weathering and also contribute to the breaking down of rocks and landforms. Lichens are some of the first living organisms that established themselves in barren rocks. They produce a dilute acidic solution that slowly causes some minerals for a rock to decompose. And that ends our lesson, and I hope that you have gained some learnings today. To sum up our topic, here are our highlights. So weathering is the physical breakdown or chemical alteration of rocks. Next will be, there are two types of weathering, mechanical or physical weathering, and also chemical weathering. So mechanical weathering is the disintegration of rocks, breaking them into smaller pieces, while chemical weathering is the decomposition of rocks through chemical reactions. There are physical processes that occur in nature that breaks into smaller pieces. This includes frost wedging, thermal stress weathering, salt crystal growth, abrasion, biological activities, and anthropogenic activities. On the other hand, the processes involved in chemical weathering includes dissolution, hydrolysis, oxidation, and biological activity. Now, it's time to show how much you have learned. Just type in the letter of your correct answer in the comment section. You are given 5 seconds to answer each question. Number 1. Rust that forms on rocks or metals because of extended exposure to oxygen is an example of what type of chemical weathering? A. Carbon dioxide. B. Acid rain. C. Oxidation. And D. Lichens. And the correct answer is letter C. Oxidation. And number 2. How does freezing water cause weathering of rocks? So the freezing water will A. Keeps the rock in place. B. Expands the cracks and breaks rocks. C. Makes the rock last longer. And D. Causes the rocks to fall in landslides. If you answered letter B, and that is correct. And number 3, acid rain is an example of chemical weathering because A. It is pollution in the sky. B. There is a friction between rain and rocks. C. Rain connected to dust falls and hits rocks so hardly so they can break. D. Pollution gets dissolved in water and falls in rain dissolving rocks over time. Your answer should be letter D. So number 4. Which of the following processes is not an example of chemical weathering? A. Dissolution of calcite. B. breakdown of feldspar to form clay, C. Splitting of a rock along fracture, and D. Rusting of nail. The answer is letter C. And last number. Which of the following is an example of physical weathering by animals? A. Insect damage flowers when they are obtaining nectar. B. Tree roots break up concrete slabs. C. People walk on grass instead of the designated paths. And D. All of the above. So your final answer should be letter B. So that concludes our discussion for today. If you have any questions and clarifications, just write it in your notebook and you may ask your subject teachers on your next meeting. Again, I am MARIFE ADVINCULA. Have fun in learning science. So thank you very much and have a blessed day.